Okay, well today I'm going to try the Japanese art of Momigami, which translated means kneading paper. I believe they use a paper with a starch covering, but I'm going to try using this. I've seen lots of people making this. The paper ends up with a fabric leathery look. Now I want to make a pouch for this journal, so I want to be able to stitch through it. So it's got to be quite a large piece to allow for the margins, and the paper actually shrinks a little bit when you use this process. Okay, well as you can see, this was a big envelope. A friend sent me some happy mail in here. Now I've been looking at how I'm going to make this into a pouch, and I'm rather lucky in that my journal actually fits in this envelope like that. So I've already got quite a nice pouch there. So I'm thinking if I cut down here and start folding the paper, it will be double paper, but I haven't seen that done before, so I'm going to try it. This side has got sort of rips on, so I can't really use that. So I'll cut down here. It may shrink too much, but we'll give it a go. I rather like the paper because it's got lots of images on it, little doodles. I think it'll be quite nice if it works out. So we'll cut this up here. I'll just do it roughly. Side. I can use that for something else, I'm sure. I'm going to pop some hand cream on first and then start folding. Now apparently what the best thing to do is to start folding rather than crumpling. This helps to break down the fibres rather than crumpling straight away. And all the time I'm adding hand cream to it. This is rather like origami, but it's just the first part of the process. And then you open it up again. And then you fold the edges in a different way to what you've done. So I'll carry on doing this a few times. It would be a bit boring for you to watch me. And then when I'm at the stage to crumple it, I'll come back. Okay, well I must have folded this about 20 times. Turning it over and folding it in the other direction. It's got quite soft now. Beginning to feel a little bit more like fabric. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the edges, because those are the areas that are tougher. Very good for your hands as well, with all this cream on, and good for the moving of the joints. It feels a little bit like those covered lunch wraps that you get now, sort of like a PVC. I think you've got to be a little bit patient with it and careful, because you could tear it if you're using thinner paper. This was quite thick paper, really. You can see how soft it's getting. Okay, so now I'm going to put some more hand cream on and crumple it up. I'll have hands as soft as babies when I'm finished. I don't think if I need any more actually. Right, so now, because it's quite soft, I'm going to start crumpling it. It would have been difficult to do this at first because it was quite hard. So again, you do this over and over until you're happy with the stage it's got to. So I'm going to carry on doing this now for a little while, and then I'll come back. Okay, well, I've been doing that now for a little while. I've used 3 more lots of hand cream. My hands are quite dry now, so it's all gone into this paper. It feels like fabric now. It's soft, but actually it's quite strong. Where I've got the flap opening, there are a few little tears. I think I'm going to have to actually put some fabric on there to have the fold when I stitch it. But if we compare to the paper how it started, it is a little bit less wide. I don't know if you can see that. I'll put it down here. So it's lost a couple of centimetres, and the same the other way, I imagine. I have tried my journal and it still goes in there okay, so I'm fine for the size I want. But if you can see how stiff this is and how pliable this is, it's just like cloth. Now I'm going to leave it to dry before I stitch it, so I don't know how it's going to look when it dries a bit. We'll see. But it's a lovely relaxing way to spend an hour or so crumpling paper. What else would you be doing on a wet afternoon? So I'll come back when it's a bit dry. Okay, well, I'm really pleased with this. It's dried out really nicely overnight, and it still feels like cloth. Got that sort of leathery feel. So what I'm going to do now is put some decoration on it, because it's already got these images on, but I wanted to do some stitching and maybe put a little bit of colour on it. So I want to do some stitching all over here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have to take this seam apart, because I won't be able to get it into the machine, but I'm going to try and put it in that way, so we'll see. I'm just going to do some stitching both sides, just to give it a little bit more texture and a bit more interest. So when I've done that, I'll come back and show you. I've also got to think about this flap. So I said before I may put some material there, a piece of plain brown fabric, just to be contrast, or even something, you know, with a colour like green or something. So I'm going to go away to the sewing machine and have a play, and I hope you like what I've done when I come back. Now, before I go to the sewing machine, I've just found this bit of paper. It's florist paper, and I think I'm probably going to use this to reinforce the flap. I was thinking of a green colour. I'm into green with all the spring coming on. So I'll look at sewing that on, and then I've torn a little bit out because I want to put a nameplate there and I'll try and stitch that in. It may all change when I get to the sewing machine, but that's my thoughts at the moment. Okay, I'll show you how far I've got. I've put some stitching on the outside. I managed to do it without taking the seams off. I haven't put any on that side, but I've added some green paper to this and I've just rounded the edges there. So I've got a stitch down here and down this side to make it secure. I've been making these little leather straps. Well, they're not leather, but out of the paper. So I just cut some strips and put some brown ink on them, and then I stitched all around. I'm going to add these just by gluing them when I've stitched the bag to the outside with some studs. Just to make it look as though it's bound with those. Then I just tore this little bit of paper off this green, and I'm going to add that to there with a nameplate. I just stitched around the edge and screwed it up a little bit just to. So on this side they're a little bit longer, so those are going to be stuck down there. And then I've just got to think of a closure, and I may put a little bit of brown ink on the cover or some bronze. So I'm having a think about that first before I make a decision, and then when I've finished it I'll come back and show you the completed folder. So here we are. I'm really pleased with it. It's a lovely flexible folder that looks like fabric, feels like fabric. I've added these little binding strips and they carry over to the other side, and I put some studs on that. I've stitched along the edges, added the nameplate. I've added little bits of gold here and there, and I've rubbed it over with some brown ink in places just to give it an aged look. So let's see if my journal will fit in. Really nicely there. I haven't done a closure yet. I'm not sure about whether to put a button on it or a stud. I'm just going to leave that for a while. So I think it's a wonderful transformation from this very stiff paper, which I had sent, into this lovely cloth-like fabric. So why don't you give it a go? It made for a very relaxing afternoon, and isn't that why we do our crafting? If you liked it, please press the subscribe button and the like button, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now, everyone.